Next, during dinner, the supermarket lady reveals that she has become infected. Worried about harming others, she wants to leave the apartment. However, everyone votes to let her stay in the apartment under quarantine. In the shower, Si-young looks at the locator in her hand, hesitating whether to press the button to inform the military. If she presses the button, Chae will soon be taken away by the military for research. Just as she is considering her options, a soldier bursts into the shower room. Despite being undressed, she quickly subdues the intruder. Outside, everyone gathers to listen to Kang's story. The Gangnam woman brings out a bottle of fruit wine to liven up the atmosphere. Suddenly, the soldier rushes in and sees the fruit wine. He reaches out to grab the fruit inside, looking starved. From his disjointed words, they can roughly guess he has just experienced something terrifying. The soldier looks distraught and confused. Si-young wants to ask him what happened, but then the soldier's walkie-talkie rings and a man's arrogant voice comes through. The soldier is scared and tries to run but is held back by the residents. Seeing the soldier in panic, Si-young quickly destroys the walkie-talkie and has everyone remove the SOS sign outside the apartment. If people outside found out there were survivors in the apartment, there would be bloodshed. The mutant security guard, who had been provoked by the stench of rotting fish, suddenly appears. He takes the elevator to the first floor, and his actions are witnessed by Chae and Wook. They have to reach the first floor before the security guard causes any damage to the others. However, Wook is captured by another monster out of nowhere, leaving Chae as their only hope. In order to get to the ground floor as quickly as possible, he jumps down. But he ends up breaking his leg in the process. Unable to fully recover, he can only crawl. In the meantime, the Gangnam woman thinks that Cha had completed the task and returned, so she goes to the elevator. To her surprise, the security guard emerges, carrying a lawn mower on his back and covered in disgusting flies. The security guard is about to kill the Gangnam woman when Jung appears, blocking the lawn mower with his samurai sword. However, he is no match for the electric-powered weapon. Seconds later, the security guard cuts off Jung's arm, breaking the samurai's sword as well. Jung stands up and stabs the broken sword into the security guard's body before dragging him into the elevator. As the elevator doors open and close, the fight to their last breaths. Jung knows that he can't kill the monstrous guard simply by fighting, so he signals an onlooking resident to throw a Molotov cocktail into the elevator. Lee grabs the Molotov cocktail and throws it into the elevator, killing both Jung and the security guard. The tragic scene brings tears to the eyes of everyone present. Later, they hold a simple funeral for Jung in the apartment. Meanwhile, it's the 10th day of the supermarket lady's battle against the monstrous transformation. In just 5 more days, she could become a special infected who can control their monstrous form. She keeps telling herself she can make it through. Elsewhere, the military discovers a group of deceased soldiers. It turns out they were killed by the gang previously heard over the radio. After the murders, the gang stole the military's armored vehicle and headed towards Green Home. In the observation room of the apartment complex, Kang tells Si-young that he has lived in the apartment for many years. Based on his memory and experience, he deduces that there might be a bunker-like shelter beneath the apartment. If they can find it, everyone will be safe. Just then, they notice the armored vehicle speeding across the bridge near the apartment. Si-young looks at the tracker in her hand, which she hasn't turned on. So the military shouldn't be able to find them here. But Kang tells her that even soldiers can't be trusted during these times. Before the residents can prepare, the armored vehicle breaks through the entrance. A group of bandits step out of the vehicle without a word. Their leader, an intimidating man, stabs the fleeing soldier several times, then cuts off his fingers to try to unlock a code case but fails. He then draws a circle on the ground and orders the apartment survivors to stay inside it. The leader then orders his men to search the building for all survivors. During this time, Kang is captured by the thugs while covering for Wook. The veteran is also caught. The little boy is saved by the green slime monster and narrowly escapes being captured. A female resident accidentally steps out of the circle and is shot dead on the spot. Faced with such ruthless thugs, everyone is filled with anger but is unable to resist. Just as one of the thugs is about to assault Jisoo, an accomplice named Yui Myung appears and tells him the boss wants to see him. As a result, Jisoo narrowly escapes this ordeal. To distract the thugs, Lee asks the bandit leader where else they have been and what those places look like now. In response, the leader mentions a church with tight security that they had recently visited. However, when they stormed in, they found almost everyone inside dead. Strangely, there were no signs of monster attacks. He guesses they killed each other. And in his opinion, humans are more terrifying than monsters. In the meantime, Si-young remembers a gun hidden in the ventilation duct. However, when she tries to fetch it, she cannot find it anywhere. It turns out that Wook had already found the weapon and taken it. However, Si-young takes down a thug with her bare hands. She and Wook then meet up with the little boy that the slime monster saved. Wook doesn't harm the monster for now. Meanwhile, the bandit leader thinks Lee has strong leadership skills because this is the worst group of survivors he's seen yet. And yet, they have the largest number of people surviving. Therefore, he wants Lee to join his team. Considering everyone's safety, Lee pretends to agree and takes them to meet the quarantined supermarket lady. Unexpectedly, these ruthless thugs shoot her dead when they discover she's infected. While the bandit leader is away, the survivors prepare to save themselves. However, the leader threatens Lee's life, forcing them to surrender. Out of nowhere, the supermarket lady resurrects and approaches the crowd of people. Instead of attacking the bandits, she begins to attack Lee. However, Cha blocks an attack with his body and reluctantly strangles her to death. When the bandit leader learns that Che is a special infected, he becomes very interested and takes Cha to the rooftop for torture. Downstairs, the nasty thug starts to target Yuri for his perverse pleasure and orders her to go to the operating room. As he's about to assault her, Ji-Soo attacks him with a broken knife. However, she's immediately beaten down by the thug. However, he doesn't notice Yuri, who sneaks up behind him and kills him with one fatal blow. Having never killed somebody before, Yuri is quite shaken and has an asthma attack, causing her medication to fall to the ground. Just as she's about to pass out, Wook appears in time and gives her the inhaler. Outside, Si-young arrives on the ground floor and successfully kills the thug guarding the area. Everyone tries to escape, but another thug blocks their way. He shoots and kills a survivor, forcing Si-young to drop her weapon. He then proceeds to punch and kick her while she desperately covers her stomach to protect her unborn child. This enrages the others, who band together and manage to kill the thug. Afterward, they start cleaning up the scene. Suddenly, the veteran starts bleeding from his nose on the rooftop. On the rooftop, the bandit leader suggests many ways to torture and kill Cha, such as beheading, gutting, or simply throwing him off the building. Just as he's about to act, Yui Myung thrusts his transformed hand into the leader's chest and throws him off the high rise. It turns out he is also a special infected like Cha. Yui Myung extends his bloodied hand for a handshake with Cha, but suddenly, a military helicopter flies overhead. Numerous red pamphlets land where the two are standing. These contain announcements from the military encouraging people to report special infected individuals in return for passage to safe zones. Next, Cha asks Yui Myung why he killed his boss, but the latter claims to be a wolf among rabbits, blending in with the bandits just for fun and manipulating them before ultimately killing them. He believes this isn't a crime but a survival rule in this world. Cha counters, saying not all monsters harm people. He even takes Yui Myung to the 14th floor to see the strange woman who transformed into a womb-like creature. Yui Myung admits that such non-harming monsters exist, but questions if there are any humans who wouldn't hurt monsters. The military's announcement is the best proof of human violence because by reporting special infected individuals, informants are promised safety and relocation to secure camps. Yui Myung further claims that once Cha's so-called friends find out about these offers, they will no longer protect him because humans cannot be trusted. Following this, Yui Myung and Cha descend the stairs, and Cha walks in front. Meanwhile, the people on the first floor are in a state of readiness with their guns aimed at the elevator. Fortunately, Lee chooses to trust Cha, but others still point their guns at the new man who was with the bandits only a few minutes ago. Cha asks everyone to lower their weapons because Yui Myung saved him on the rooftop. The man then tells Cha that he hopes they can go together to find others like them, as the people in the apartment are just using him and will ultimately betray him. Next, Yui Myung reveals that he participated in military experiments, initially believing he had contracted a disease. He volunteered for the experiments to separate himself from the monsters. The military tried various methods, such as freezing, piercing, and burning, but none of them worked. Covered in wounds, Shady finally understood that it wasn't because a monster was inside him, he himself was the monster. His monstrous form looked like a pool of blood specifically inhabiting corpses and taking their bodies. Later, he went berserk in the lab, killing researchers and inhabiting their bodies. He believes he has been purified, becoming a higher being than humans who should be eliminated from nature. He then tells Cha to accept the reality that humans and monsters cannot coexist. On the other hand, despite the little boy's attempts to stop him, a survivor burns the slime monster hiding in a corner. They believe that even though the monster had saved humans before, there's no guarantee it wouldn't turn hostile later. A confused Cha finds it hard to accept this. Even if there are good and bad monsters, humans cannot peacefully coexist with them. Lee shows the ballet girl the military announcement, and she assumes her brother wants to betray Cha. Lee explains that no one can predict when the people in the safe camp will mutate. they cannot guarantee everyone's safety in these uncertain situations. Making clear promises is likely deceptive. Lee hasn't made any decisions and just wants to hear Cha's thoughts on the matter. However, after the incident with the slime monster, Cha becomes estranged from everyone and refuses to communicate with Lee. On top of this, Yui Myong tells Lee and Se-young that the military's final resolution is to sweep multiple areas as much as possible. When they cannot distinguish between humans and monsters, or when they are unsure when a human will become a monster, they won't provide support but will instead destroy everything. Even if they report special infected individuals, safety is not guaranteed. Se-young then confesses to Lee that the military gave her a locator, but she didn't use it. Instead, she handed it over to Lee and placed it in a drawer. However, their conversation is overheard by a curly-haired man hiding by the door. When Se-young and the others leave, he secretly presses the locator's button, as he doesn't want to die in the apartment. On the other side, Kang has been digging a hole on the ground floor as his intuition told him there must be a secret passage underground. Yuri comes over and tells him to be careful. However, she suffers an asthma attack and faints. Unfortunately, they had run out of asthma medication. Wook had no choice but to carry her on his back and take her outside the apartment to find medicine. However, they were stopped by Yui Myong, who suspects that they were going to report them to the military. After knocking Wook down, he takes the car keys from his hand. On the other hand, Cha believes they wouldn't betray the group, so he takes the keys from Yui Myong and urges them to leave quickly. Unexpectedly, this act infuriated Yui Myong. As Wook carries Yuri away from the apartment, he shoots them both. He then begins to slaughter the people inside the apartment. Horrified, Cha tries to stop him but is sent flying with a punch. Se-young fired several shots at Yui Myong, but his recovery is incredibly fast. At this point, Cha finally sees his true colors, and the two of them fight fiercely. However, Cha is no match for Yui Myong and gets beaten badly. After the latter subdues Cha, he prepares to kill the other people in the apartment. Just then, a solar eclipse appears in the sky, and Cha's body began to transform. A giant wing grows from one of his arms, and Cha transforms into a dark angel. Seeing his monstrous form, Yui Myong becomes ecstatic. However, the wing envelopes Yui Myong, and although Cha had only partially evolved, his power was enough to kill his nemesis with ease. Unfortunately, at this point, Cha completely loses control, and even wants to attack the other people in the apartment. Just then, the veteran uses his body to stop Cha, and the wing pierces through his body. Finally regaining consciousness, Cha breaks down in despair. Not long after, he collapses into unconsciousness, and the veteran stops breathing in front of the apartment. Outside, Wook musters his last ounce of strength to carry Yuri to the car but collapses at the door. After a few days, Cha finally wakes up but loses his memory. The others choose not to reveal the truth to him, thinking perhaps that forgetting is the best outcome. The very next morning, the residents discover that Kang had passed away peacefully in his sleep. When burying Kang, Se-young finds that the hole he had dug earlier actually led to a secret underground passage. On the other hand, no one realizes that Yui Myong is not completely dead. Cha had only destroyed his human shell, and now, a watery presence, he drove away an armored car parked outside. That night, a heavy snowfall covers the sky. The military sets up a perimeter around the apartment, promising to take the remaining survivors to a safe camp after handing over the infected. Everyone hoped Che would stay in the apartment. However, the amnesiac Cha seems to want to leave. Meanwhile, a remaining thug from the bandit group goes alone to the basement to flip the breaker switch in an attempt to escape. However, this only causes an explosion, and he loses his life to the resulting fire. Hearing the explosion, the military assumes the residents are armed and opens fire. Everyone has no choice but to hide in the underground passage. Lee notices his sister's concern for Che and decides to find and bring him back. Before leaving, he promises his sister that he would return safely. Soon after, Lee does find Che and once again gives him the chance to choose between staying and leaving. In the end, Cha walks towards the snowy outdoors, while Lee does not return to the secret passage. It was then that the ballet girl realizes that her brother had lied to her. Alone in the management room, Lee looks at the family portrait in his hand with tearful eyes. He then begins to show symptoms of a nosebleed as he too was infected. Not wanting to harm others, he chooses to stay in the apartment. On the other side, Cha slowly walks through the hail of bullets from the military. During this time, flashes of the people in the apartment appear in his mind, seemingly restoring his memory. In the secret passage, everyone begins searching for an exit. Finally, with the help of the pet dog, they see the light of day again, and outside, board military vehicles to head to the safe camp. However, Se-young rejoins the military ranks, determined to continue investigating her missing fiancé's situation. Cha too wakes up in the armored vehicle, his wounds healed. However, the driver of the vehicle was none other than Wook, whose scars had vanished. It could be inferred that this was not the real Wook, but rather Yui Myong inhabiting his body, using his regenerative powers to heal the scars. This indicates that the stories for the special infected are far from over.